our last two, just a reminder, we're going to do this noise background visual that was the same as the cover of the flyer for TDSW. It's just a different color scheme. And we'll do this hand tracking one. Right now it's not working as well because I'm dancing around. But we'll go back to our class file, save, and I'll create a base comp. And I'll first make the backgrounds. So the background is two noise tops that are comped together. So I'll first make the first noise top. Can change the resolution, make it 1280 by 720. And the noise period, I will increase it to, you can play around with different parameters, and I encourage you to, but I'll just use what I did for the sample file. Add the harmonics to be 4, harmonic speed to 1.2, harmonic gain to 1.5, and exponent to 2, amplitude 0.25, and I had this moving. So in the transform, the ty and tz, the expression abs time dot seconds times 0.05. So it's moving pretty slowly. Copy this. And I'll also paste it in the Z. So it's moving around. Cool. We'll make the second noise. Make another noise top. Change the resolution 1280 by 720. And for this one, I have the period to 1.13, harmonics to be 2, harmonic speed 1.2, harmonic gain 1.58, exponent 2, and lower the amp to 0.15. So you kind of barely see it, but I'll turn the monochrome off. And for the translate, I'll reverse it. So negative abs time dot seconds times 0.05. I'll do the same thing for the TZ. So cool. And we'll add a displace for these two. So add a displace top, noise, displace, and feedback, since that should be actually the name of this class, this workshop. We'll add a displace top, and I'll change the displace weight to be 0.2. And UV weight also to 0.2. And I'm gonna lower the, keep the offset 0.5. So kind of creates this interesting watery, glassy-ish look. And after this, I'll add a texture on it. So if you see in this one, it has this kind of grain look. You can do this technique in any visual you do by adding a small grain noise. Oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna just redelete it. So so the third noise, what we're gonna do is get some texture on this. So if you see an example file, it has this grainy effect. So a way we can do that is comp onto a very light opacity of very fine noise. So we'll make another noise top, and change the resolution to 1280 by 720 and change the noise type to random. And I'll lower this opacity with a level and change in the post, change the opacity to 0.2. So it's fairly noticeable. And we'll put this, comp this with an add. So add comp. And you see it has this kind of grainy effect. You can play with the opacity, how much you want to be visible. Actually, I might change it to 0.4. 2. And I'll first add a null and call this BK for background so we can see it. So right now it's this black and white color. So let's add some color into this by, I'll add a lookup top. And also in the file, you should get this color lever picker tool. It's a free asset. You can even, if you look up color lever picker, the first thing actually goes to Generative where you can download this tool. If you didn't download it, but you have the sample file, you can also just copy it from the sample file and paste it in here. And it really just creates, it's just pre-made palettes. And I like this just to use a pre-made palettes here. So if I put like a null afterwards and I make this viewer active, you can select different palettes that you like. And if I hook this up to lookup, it'll be the palette. So this is the one that is in for the sample file. And if you don't want to use the color pickup, you can also just make a ramp top. I'm going to change this a bit wider to like 720. Nope. This to 1280. And you can choose the range of color you want. Just kind of make this to this like greeny blue. And if I hook that, the lookup will also do your custom ramp color. So your option, you can use this color lever picker tool, or you can create your own color palette with a ramp. So we got the background. Let's get the body. So I'll split my plane. I'll get a select top prepared and go up and get my Kinect index. And I'll do the same thing I did in other two exercises to get the silhouette. You can also, in the future, if you know you're constantly going to have silhouette to do the threshold technique inside this data, but it's also good to practice so it's ingrained in your head how you get the silhouette of with the index. So I'll get a threshold and lower the threshold till I see it. I select and I'll add a blur. And I'll increase this blur, or I'll change the filter size to 6. And after this, I'll add a feedback back in the feedback in the palette, image filter, feedback tool. I'll plug it in. And cool, I got a feedback. And I'll add a bit of a blur on it. Blur. now, this resolution is 1920 by 1080, but this is 1280 by 720. So I'm going to just add a fit top. So this is also 1280 by 720. And change the type. I'll keep it to best fit. Yeah. And I can just comp this onto this or have this into this, but I want this to be mirrored. So I will add a tile top. Right now there's 4. If I go to tile, I'll change the repeat, repeat Y to 1. And I will I'll change reflex X on and make the overlap to be, I'll crop to 0.8. I'll crop this one. No. Sorry. I'll change the overlap to 0.45. Oops. Just so I won't be squished, but avoid getting a tile on the left. So maybe I'll decrease it a bit. Awesome. Next, I want to get this texture inside here. So we're back. My file didn't crash, but I saved. So either if it did, it would have been okay because save always. But I want this texture in my silhouette, but have it flipped. So what I will do is get a flip top, connect it after the lookup, and I'll flip the TX and TY, and I'll add a level afterwards. I first won't adjust anything to level. We can play around with what we want to change, but we'll first put inside top after the silhouette and connect it to the second output. Oops, we'll switch this. And now I have this texture inside my silhouette. Let's just see what will happen if we just comp this over this for now. So we'll add a over top, pipe the background to second output, and I'll add a null. Name this out, have this be active. So if you want it to not be more subtle, you can keep this the way you, just like this, or you can play around with some of the parameters in the level for the after the flip. You can change the gamma, or you can play with, change the color, RGB, and make this your own and see what type of level parameters you want to change to separate from the background. And once we have the silhouette, you can play around, see how it looks with different type of palettes. I think the cover was one of these palettes. Oh, maybe it was this one. I think it was this palette. And also with the noise level for the texture, you can see how much opacity you want for the texture grain. Cool. And that is our third visual, or sorry, fifth visual. I'll make this operation viewer visible, and I'll call this noise background. And we'll do our last one. So our last one, it has this hand tracking. So this Kinect data is not the best for the last exercise. So I'm going to switch, go into Kinect Studio. I'll change the file to the hand tracking. So the hand track XCF. Close enough, and I'll play it. And if I go back, make sure it's playing. Cool. So this is what I'll be creating. So we'll go back to our test file, go inside, and we'll first create the geometry instancing to make the particles. So we'll first do a sphere swap. And I'll change the sphere swap to polygon. I'll turn on the wire mode. So if you make the viewer active in TDSW, you can see the wire mode. I'll change the radius to be pretty big because this will be all the little particles will be instanced onto this shape. So I'll make the radius to 10 by 10, 10. And I want more points. So if I click on points, so all the little particles will be on all the blue dots where the points intersect. Sorry, that was my cat. And so I'll want this to be a bit bigger, so more points. So I'll change the frequency in the detail tab to 7. So we'll have all these different points. I'll add a noise swap after this. And I'll just make this also a wire mode so I can just see it. And I'll change the C to 2, harmonics to 7. Roughness, I'll keep it to 0.5. And I'll later have the Kinect hand motion opening and closing affect the exponent and the amplitude. Heard my cat running like a bunny. I'll change and I will add a null after this. Great. And I'll make a swap to chop so I can use this to instance onto a geometry. So a swap to chop. And the swap to chop has the TX, TY, and TZ data. And I want to add one more data for the scale, because right now all the scale will be uniform and I want it to be a little bit more interesting. I'll add a noise chop. And for this noise chop, I'll change the roughness to be 0.5, exponent, I'll have it to be 0.6, and amplitude to be 2. Again, feel free to play around with the different parameters, but this is what I liked. And the transform, I'll have it have some motion. So abs time dot frame. Cool. Right now it's called Chan name, but I'll change name with a rename chop. And I'll call this to CF and add a null. Hi. Cool. So I'll use this to instance a geometry. I'll add another sphere swap. So the sphere will be in all these points. So I want this to be pretty tiny. I'll change the radius to 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, and the primitive type to be polygon. And I'll make the frequency to 1. So I'll show you in wire mode what the frequency will do. So it just adds more surfaces. So I'll just have it to be 1. And I'll connect a null after this in case I want to switch. You can play around with different geometries, but and if you want to switch out, you can just switch with the null, and I'll add a geometry comp afterwards. Cool. In this geometry, I'll turn on instancing, drag this null here, and have it be the tx, ty, tz to instance. So it's already pretty cool, but I also want the scale to be changed. So the scale, I'll add the scale data. So add scale and the scale tx and ty. Cool. So now let's change the scale. And I'll add camera, light, and a render top. Cool. I'll add a null after the render. Call this out and have this as a background so we can see what's going on. So let's add a material to the geometry. I'll just do a constant, a constant mat. And I'll drag this onto the geometry. You can have it in any color you want, but I'll have it as like a teal color. Nice. So we would want the hand motion left and right to change the translate, the T, Y, TX, and TZ. So let's get the data. Let's put the plane. And I want to get the chop data, and I want it to comp onto the color. So I'll get a connect top. So select top. I'll drag the color, and also a select chop. I'll close this up. Cool. I'll first just add a fit top because right now this is 1920 by 1080 and I want it to be 1280. 1280 by 720. So many numbers. And if it fits, and I'll just add a null after this. For now, I'll have this in my bottom corner just so I can see my hand motion to make sure everything's right. And in the chop data, let's select the chop, the different data we want. So there's so much data, so much data. Data's everywhere. But again, we're going to use, like the previous one, I'm using my hand motion. I want my hand tips. So I will first put in the star hand tips, close star, spell hand tip wrong. So there's all this data, but you notice I'm only using one hand. So I just really need one hand, the data. So only the right hand data is actually really moving. So after the hand tip, I'm going to put a _R. And now I have the TX, TY, TZ, and UV of my right hand. But I'll just be using the TX, TY, and TZ data because we're working in a 3D space, so the world space. And I'll select the TX, TY, TZ all separately because we're going to change all the data's range separately. But to be easier to select, I'll first just rename this to TX, TY, TZ. And it's okay that the last two we don't rename because we're not going to use it. So we'll get a select chop. We'll select the TX. This is a little bit more. We'll get two more selects. Copy and paste this to T1. And one more time. And I'll get the TZ. I'm first going to merge this back together and put a null, and then we'll see what range we actually want to change these to. So get a merge. And the null. So let's go back to the camera to see what range we would want. So let's first see the TX. So we can just start playing. Actually, let's first do the TZ so we know how much we want to zoom in and zoom out into this particle system. So we'll, in the TZ, I'll just drag forward and back. Oops. Ooh, too fast, too fast. So right now it's 20. Let's see what is like 25. So it's in 10. How about if it's like 30? I like 30, 40. So I'll have the range to be 40 by 20. Hope that's good with you. Good with me. So in the math, I'll add a math, the TZ select, I'll add a math chop. So I have it, the range to be, we said 20 by 40. You can have any range you want, so I'll put 20 by 40. But we also need to select the from range, and it seems like the from range of TZ is like, it is 0 to 1. So it would work. And let's just first drag this parameter into the Z and see how it looks. We make sure it's on the camera and on the geometry parameter. But the TZ, I'll drag it over. And it seems like it's working. I'm not moving so dramatically, so it's a bit more subtle. So you can see that in the right motion. Let's next do the TX. So what range I want to do. So seems TX is -5 or -7 to 7. So -7 to 7 seems like a good range for me. So I'll add another map chop after the TX selection, and I'll change the range to be -7 to 7. But this one, it doesn't seem like it's going like perfectly 0 to 1 from the from range. So let me find, we should find what the range is. A good way we can do is add a trail chop after. And I'm going to increase the grid detail and see where the grid hits. So seems like the max is somewhere between a 0.3, 0.4, and the low to be like a -1.5. So I'll just change it to negative 0.2 and 2x positive 0.35. Cool. Let's drag this into the camera TX and see what we get. Cool, so it seems like it's tracking. And I'm actually going to change my Z range to be 15 by a little bit more zoomed in. Yeah, I like that. And if you want, you can also add a lag. Add a lag chop after the math. And what that will do is create a little bit, it'll smooth out the data a bit so it's less jarring. But make sure the lag isn't too high to where it will feel like it's lagging too much. So next we'll do the TY. The camera will find the range you would like. Can move up and down to find a nice range. For timescape, I'll just do the same range I did, which was a 5 to -5. But something interesting, if you notice for the Y, if you increase, it goes down. And if you decrease, it goes up. So for the from range, I'll actually have it from positive number to negative, or it'll be going reverse. So I'll add a math chop. And I'll change the range to 5 to -5. And if we connect this to the trail, we can see what is the range of the TY right now. And it seems like I'll put a negative 0.4 to a positive 0.1. So, and I'll drag this onto the TY. And it seems like it's tracking over, yeah. I'll add another lag after this, so to smooth out the data a bit. If you ever want to see like what this lag does, great way is just hooking up to a trail. If you hook both of it, you can see the difference. So after lag, it kind of smooths up the edges. Cool. And we'll comp this over. So we can click an over. And we'll just drag this null back. So we're almost done. We're just going to add some interactivity. So we'll have our hand opening and close affect the noise of it. So we will grab the interactive data. So if you zoom in right now, the interactive data, you can see it has like open, left, close, confident, lasso, confident, engaged. If you don't see this, make sure that this connect chop, you have the interaction checked on. Because once it's off, it's gone. So make sure it's on. And we'll select the right hand open and close. So I'll make another select chop. And I will want to select anything with, let's first put anything that has close in it. So we have left close and right close, but we just want right. So we'll just put R underscore close. So anything with R underscore close shows up, which is this one data. Now make another select. And I want anything that's called R open. So now we have the closed and open data. And we want the closed data to affect the noise exponent, and we want the open to affect the amplitude. So I'll rename this just so I remember when which one's going to control what. I'll name the closed to exponent and the open to amp for amplitude. We'll change the range, but we'll first add a merge. Combine these two. And a null. And let's see what's the range we want for this noise. So you can start dragging the exponent. You can also see like, what does it actually do? The amplitude is a little bit more noticeable. Oh, that's cool. Ooh, ooh. But what I did for the example file, I had the exponent to range to be from 0.25 to 0. And so I'll do the same thing for here. So exponent, I'll add a mask and the range to be 0.25 to 0. So let's just see what will happen if we first just drag this into the parameter. Blah, blah, blah. So right now it just snaps from 0.25 to 0 because this data is different from TX, TY, and TZ, where it's a toggle, acts like a toggle rather than having any range in between. So we'll add a filter chop, and the filter would give it will filter it so it gives a little bit more of a range. But I'll change the filter width to 0.3 so it won't take as long for it to get to from 0.25 to 0. Yep. Next, we'll change the amp. So let's see something we'll like. I kind of like it going all the way small. So you have 5 to 10. So every time it like opens, and I'll have it to be like 5 to 10. So this, I'll add a mask and change the range to 5 to 10. And again, I'll add another filter. So it won't just be snapping 5 to 10 unless you like that. Filter width 0.3, and we'll drag this over. Cool. Seems like it's working. And yeah, you can play around with the lag and the filter, how much you want it to smooth out the data, and always change the different geometry, the color. There's a lot of different things you can play with this technique. But I'll come back up here, make this operator viewer out, and we did it. We made it, and I'm surprised pretty on time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, so yeah, all these different techniques I hope will give you skills for people to make their own Kinect projects. And yeah, I hope this was helpful.
Well, thank you so much.